Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Well-Appointed Mystic. I realized that it's been quite some time since I did a post. I traveled quite a bit towards the end of August and into September, and I think we've all hit a point in all of this where we have been trying to do too much, too frequently, and you just get a little bit of burnout, as well as also needing some recovery time. I put out a lot of creative content both for this channel and for my other channel, The Well-Appointed Desk. I also do a blog and an online shop or three. So with traveling for my Well-Appointed Desk day job, freelance and all of that, my tarot journey and my sort of personal inner growth has had to sort of take a back seat for a few weeks. It's not to say that I have not continued to pull tarot cards and do some of that type of work. It just has not, I have not been able to give it the full attention that I would normally give it. And I feel really bad about that for my own growth and for my own, for all of us who do read tarot cards, read oracle cards, that kind of thing. That experience is how we take a pause, how we reconsider what we're doing, how we think through sort of personal life stuff. And when we do not give ourselves the time or the permission to do those kinds of things, we can kind of get mad at ourselves. And so that's sort of what happened to me. So I thought I would just sort of do a little sort of a deep dive on what I'm doing to sort of get my mojo back a little bit, and also to just sort of talk through what happened in September. Not that anybody cares, but I think it's always interesting to hear other people's personal journeys and hear when things kind of hit a rocky spot. It's not just, we all go through it. You're not in this alone. We do this together. So really quickly, let's talk about the good stuff, the things I'm really happy about right now, which is that despite making an effort over the years, the last few years, to pick one tarot and one oracle deck for each month, this month I decided that I could not be tied down to my own rules. And so I actually ended up with 2 tarot decks and 1 oracle deck. And really quickly, let's pull those out. So these were my cards from the other day, actually just yesterday. I have not pulled my cards for today. I tend to do my card pulls now more in the evenings. I used to try to do them in the morning so that they would reflect sort of what I should look ahead towards. And then I started doing them in the evenings, to focus on what tomorrow I might look for, what be aware of, that kind of thing. And now it tends to somehow be late afternoon, or, sort of my tea break, my coffee break in the afternoons. And it's taken on more of a, how can I refocus, or how can I complete this day sort of vibe. And some of that leaks into the following day, obviously. And sometimes it's sort of reflecting on what has happened previously in the day, kind of things. So hopefully you will have recognized some of these decks, but the decks that I am using for this month are Tarot of the Witch's Garden, and I keep it in a little bag that I knit myself out of some scrap yarn that I had floating around. I keep saying that one day I will actually sort of write up a pattern, but it's very much just a giant toe-up sock that instead of turning the heel, I just make a little flap and then add I-cord to the end. So I feel like this is one of those things that most knitters could probably just figure out on their own. It's just a toe-up sock. It's just a really big toe-up sock. Just measure your deck, count how many stitches. I use fingering weight yarn if you're curious. So knitters, you've been warned. So the Oracle deck that I picked is the Woodland Wardens, which is Jessica Rue. I forgot to mention who did the Terror of the Witch's Garden. I believe the book is Sasha Graham. The artist is Natasha Ilinchik. Hopefully I said that right, or was in the ballpark a little bit. And then the last deck is the absolutely delightful Smoke, Ash, and Ember, which I have mixed up the names so many times in the past week. I'm like, Smoke, Oak, and... No, that's not right. Oak, Ash, and no. So, anyway, it's a 3 trees deck. It's just absolutely stunning, and I am so excited to have a copy. This is one of the original editions. I know they have recently, 3 Trees has changed the deck to unify it with the rest of their collection. The actual Oak, Ash, and Thorn, Smoke, Ash, and... Am I doing that right? Oak, Ash, and... Oh, you know... I'll just put a link. I'll put a link to 3 trees and you guys can figure it out. So anyway, this is the dragon deck. And I'm absolutely tickled by how much I like this. I was never one of those kids that grew up being a dragon kid. Like, I wasn't into dragons. I was much more into space, outer space, and like very sci-fi stuff. So the fact that in my adult life, I have fallen in love with this absolutely stunning Eric Ohlers dragon deck has just been so great for me. So again, everybody's familiar with these decks. There's got to be a better way to do this. Okay. So, and what I have discovered with using these decks in this way, I don't know that other people would have said these decks go together, but I really like how they work together. So I have been pulling at least one card from each deck and using sort of the Oracle as sort of a focus a little bit for the 2 cards, which I think has helped to sort of unify what would otherwise maybe feel a little less cohesive. I mean, but look... like the color of the wings. There's just a really interesting vibe here. Modest Fortitude. Like, I mean, these decks really seem to like each other and seem to work really well for me, which is really nice because I will dive in a minute and talk about sort of what happened to September for so many reasons. But yeah, so like, oh, the Ace of Swords and the Page of Swords. And Wisdom. Yeah. So I've been really pleased with how these balance, how they sort of work together, and have been really useful for me at this particular point in time. Like, look at the expression on the dragon and on the star. Like, they're both kind of looking up into, like, it's just, I don't want to say that they were meant to go together, but I'm going to have a hard time ever using these where I don't kind of combine them together. There's just something about them that feels so almost joyous when you combine them. Oops. So yeah, this has been like a really happy combination for me. So like, I love that again, these 2 feel like they're both sort of leaning backwards. They lean into each other. So I have really enjoyed working with these together so far. I've only been working with them for a couple weeks now, for October, but I think it's kind of a really powerful combo. I do think that I would like to grab a copy of the Smoke, Ash, and Ember with the new design. I believe they're like full bleed. And so, yeah, pretty excited about those. So I did paint the edges on my Tarot of the Witch's Garden, and I believe I want to paint the edges on the Woodland Wardens, and I'm thinking I might also use gold on these. These two just look so pretty together, and I actually really like the backs together in general. And I've kind of moved placement where sometimes the oak ash and smoke, ash, and ember is on the left-hand side, and sometimes it's on the right. The Oracle Woodland Wardens has sort of stayed in the middle of the reading. So this has been an interesting experiment for me to read 3 cards at a time each day instead of just 2. I think it has created more compelling context for my readings, where I think using only 2 cards, as I have been doing in the past, like just reading a tarot card and then having an oracle card as sort of an energy card or something, could sometimes leave like an open-ended sentence for me with my readings. And so I think that this has really made a difference. And I think I will probably be more inclined to read like 3 cards at a time or more going forward. So I do think that that's indicating some level of growth on my part, because now I'm like, I enjoy stringing the story together through the cards. So anyway, let's get into a little bit of what happened in September. In the month of September, I worked with these 2 decks, the Green Witch Tarot and the Faceted Garden Oracle. And I think that I did myself a bit of a disservice. I really wanted to force myself at a certain point to work with the Green Witch Tarot, because I had said before that the imagery on the deck didn't really speak to me. So I thought I need to just force myself to use this deck, because some cards I find very pretty, but other cards I just find the artwork to be a little awkward. I hate to say, like, it's not a disservice to the artist, it's just that aesthetically it wasn't working for me visually. And then when you add in that going through the guidebook, Anne Mora uses very different sort of meanings to these cards than a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. Like, instead of the Wheel of Fortune, we have the Wheel of the Year. It's definitely leaning more into witch, Wicca, you know, the Horned God. Like, a lot of the major arcana, the names were changed. You know, you have the Oak King instead of the Hanged Man. But the meanings were changed enough in the guidebook that I got very muddled about sort of where I was supposed to be. You know, I mean, despite some of these cards where you look at them and it's like, yes, that's the Four of Cups. It very much has that Four of Cups vibe. But then the guidebook kind of would often take cards in different directions from what I tend to interpret them. So I got even more confused and more sort of put out with the deck. So I think that hindered me reading as much as I had hoped that I would read. You know, so I just wasn't pulling cards on a daily basis because I was like, oh, I'm going to get into the guidebook and I'm not going to agree with the wording and the messaging, and then get even more confused. And so I had hoped to sort of anchor some of this with the Faceted Garden, which is silver edging. It's a really pretty deck. It's an indie deck that was created by Claire Mack. And this was a deck that I really like the most of the imagery. I like how this collage work was assembled. But it was another one where I had to refer to the guide sheet, which is not, it's not huge and overbearing or anything like that. But there are none of the keywords are on the actual cards. It just has what it is. So which was a little frustrating because I was having to refer to the guidebook for every card that I pulled from the Green Witch Tarot, and then using the Faceted Garden. While I very much enjoyed the look, and in a lot of cases I could actually glean the meaning, but then I would second guess myself and refer to the guide sheet. And you know, so I ended up spending more time just sort of researching and cross-referencing and second guessing myself with the card meanings, both for the Faceted Garden and the Green Witch, that I don't think that I got into actual like emotional, spiritual life interpretations the way that I would with a deck that felt easier to understand or fell more in line with a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is where my familiarity exists. So while I think that this is a beautiful deck and I really enjoyed working with it, I did stumble a lot. And so as a result, I did not spend as much time with my tarot practice as I would have in other circumstances. So September was a bit of a train wreck for me, and I wanted to share my experiences with you because I wanted other people to take away from this that we all have our own ups and downs, where we have a month that we're very successful and we get very involved in our readings and we're really into our flow, as it were, and other months where life gets in the way, like you're too busy, your kids are sick, you're sick, like other things come up that take precedent over this. And it's not a bad thing. Like, I mean, it's not something that I want to have happen, but also I don't feel like I should punish myself or like be really hard on myself. Like every month is a new opportunity. Every week, every day is a new opportunity to start over. And that is something that I continue to try to do with my tarot practice, with my journaling, with everything else. Oh, that reminds me, I was gonna talk a little bit about that. But maybe I'll just put a link to my planner setup video that I did on Well Appointed Dusk if you want to sort of see how I set my planner up for the month of October, which included sort of switching to a new book and it coordinating beautifully with the decks that I chose. So that is sort of where I'm at. Honestly, I do not know if I will keep the Green Witch Tarot in my collection. I really wanted to like it. I really wanted it to sort of work for me, and it kind of just fell short for me. I will definitely, I don't know that I'm going, it'll go in purgatory for now, I think, until I decide what I want to do with it. And I think my experiences in the last few days working with Tarot of the Witch's Garden and Smoke, Ash, and Ember, and Woodland Wardens, and like what a good working relationship I'm having with those decks, only sort of magnifies how unsuccessful I was last month with Green Witch. And, you know, I don't want to say that Faceted Garden is in any way like smeared by my experiences. I just, like, the Green Witch and I did not bond and click, and unfortunately the Faceted Garden had to go along for the ride. So just, it was tainted by association. I hope that I'll put it in a drawer for a couple months and pull it back out with a different deck and sort of work with it in a different way. And I hopefully will come to it at a better place. I think working with it with another deck that is more Rider-Waite-Smith based will make it so that it doesn't feel like quite so much of a burden to refer to the guidebook that is the little guide sheet that comes with it. So anyway, that is kind of all I have today. Stick with your tarot practice, like yoga and other things where you are practicing all the time. We were never finished practicing. That it's okay that if you fall out of practice for a couple days or a couple weeks or even a couple months, that it's okay to just come back to it when you're ready, when you feel like you need it, that it's a good thing to do for your inner life, your spirituality, whatever. You know, the cards will be there when you're ready. thanks so much for watching, and I hope to talk to you again soon.